are ready to bring another exciting book-to-movie adaptation out of New York City.
Yay! I knew that was coming.
Concrete jungle. Okay, calm it down.
You walked into that one, Treva.
All right, so we're really excited. This is our first time recording the podcast outside of our home base. We're going to check out our hotel.
Mobile, y'all. We're in the Hilton Fashion District.
Bam! Shout out to the Hilton Fashion District for having us.
Thank you.
Yes.
Today we'll be discussing Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson.
Screenplay for this book is by Destin Daniel Critton and Andrew Lanham. Director, Destin Daniel Critton. And the producer is Gil Netter, Asher Goldstein, and Michael B. Jordan. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Look at him stepping up.
I didn't know until I stayed till the end of the credits and saw it.
Go, Michael. Your lips.
Just say with your lips.
Let's kiss on the screen.
So we're all really excited because this is the first in our Black History Month series, podcast number 1 for BHM. Everything's an acronym.
All month, we'll be reading from Black authors.
All month. So look forward to checking out our Black author series for this month.
So let's talk a little bit about this book. Loved it. Loved the book. It was very intense, though.
It was very intense.
It had a bunch of facts in there, which was great, but I felt a little overwhelmed because I couldn't retain the facts when there's like so many being thrown at you. The one that I really remembered was how many prisons were opened between like 1996 and like 2006 or something like that, or 85 and 95. It was like 10 or 1 every 10 days was the fact. And that just like smacked me in the face that there were so many that were opened.
And how many people were placed on death row?
A year before being even like sentenced. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Yeah, I was actually reading this book while I was on vacation in Dubai. And so I was sitting at the Loft Hotel out there, and they have this beautiful lobby, and I was out there by myself, and I'm reading in my downtime, and I was so emotional, crying and acting crazy, that I just didn't even know how to react. Like, I just felt like I was going to have an attitude with anybody that said one word to me.
Pretty much.
Because I was so angry reading this book. It was just too much. It was overwhelming.
It really was.
There's so many. I mean, the amount of cases that were just brought forward in this book that the one person had just touched. You know, not everything they were able to be successful in, but the amount of cases that he went through and just touched, and just whether he was successful or not, the amount of people that he gave a little bit of hope to, even, you know, when there was no hope. It was amazing to me.
That was one thing that I wish was portrayed more in the movie. The smaller cases that weren't the big profile ones.
Right.
That he still tried to give them hope, like you said, but also put forth that research and that effort that nobody else was putting forth. And so the book definitely gave that feel of hundreds. Yes. But the movie made it seem like it was maybe like 1 a year.
Yeah.
So I didn't really like that.
Yeah.
The book was so overwhelming with the fact that it was just story after story after story, and you just, I mean, my head was spinning. I couldn't take it. It was
his
just
staff
so...
was juggling case after case, just trying to give everybody the same amount of attention. And the movie did not portray that well, even though it was still great. I wanted them to see that magnitude of how much work they were doing.
Well, when they showed the scene, when they finally moved into the office space, and they showed all the case files all over the desk, you kind of got this feeling that it was a lot of cases, but it just wasn't portrayed as big.
Would you have noticed that, though, if we didn't read the book?
I don't think I would have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would have at all.
I mean, like, Bryan Stevenson did, like, a lot of work, so I feel like he downplayed his own self in his own movie. Mm-hmm. Since he was, you know, part of the whole making of the movie, he downplayed his own work.
Yeah.
Well, his whole team's work, not just his work. But I feel like he was kind of being too humble with that.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I guess now that we're talking about the movie.
Yeah.
Just jump that in.
We kind of really have to talk about them both at the same time because they were really good. But.
Yeah, but the one thing I would say, and it's along the lines of what you were saying, Lynn, is that the book really did talk about so many other cases. The movie just focused on that one major case. But the other thing that threw me off just a little bit in the movie was that the couple of additional cases that they did talk about in the movie, like the one guy who actually got electrocuted, that
Herbert
that blew up the bomb on the little girl. Like, there wasn't enough backstory on those individuals, and even the character that O'Shea played. There wasn't enough backstory for you to understand and really feel like what happened. I mean, the guy that played, what was his name? Herbert?
Oh, my
He was
goodness.
so good, and his role was so emotional, and I felt him, but I just felt like watching that movie, I wanted to hear the whole story about how he was really trying to impress the girl and he wanted to go save her and, you know, all of the things that you learned about in the book. So I wish there was a little bit more of that backstory to make that situation more impactful so that you really understood that he needed to be in a mental home.
And also, to piggyback on that, it shows you, like, in the 80s that how PTSD was, like, nothing. As in, they had no research, not no research, but like very little research to know that it's like a mental illness. It's not just you are obsessed with something or you can't deal. It's actually a bigger thing. So I think that they definitely should have elaborated more on his story, because that would have brought the mental health aspect into this movie or book to movie adaptation also.
This is one adaptation that I understand them not including everything. You know how I'm not a fan of it changing very much. But if they would have put all the backstory, the movie probably would have lasted forever, because
I've been okay with that.
Me too. Me too. I'm sure their funding probably would have been okay with that.
No, MBJ, I'd have been there.
Right. So I kind of understand. I wish it was maybe like a part 2 to continue with the book.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, that would make more sense. But yeah,
I agree.
So I give this one a pass for not including everything.
Yeah, it would have been overwhelming. I mean, the movie was so emotional that if they'd have put any more stories in there, I wouldn't have been able to handle it.
Me either.
Yeah,
at all.
That's a good point.
So it was just really good.
I did notice one difference that I noticed right away once I started watching the movie. Actually, the previews of the movie is that Walter McMillan, which was the main case that he was working on, didn't come across in the book that he was a little bit nicer.
No.
He was nice to him when he first got in. He wasn't mean. He was almost happy to see him.
No.
Really? Maybe
he was fully standoffish.
In the book, he was mean in the beginning. He wasn't, I mean, it wasn't mean, but he was standoffish in the beginning, because exactly what they portrayed in the movie, he didn't want Hope again. And so it took them having to have another conversation to get him to a point where he was like, okay.
But wasn't there someone, maybe it wasn't Walter, but there was somebody in the book that said, I haven't had a visitor in this amount of time.
It was a different case.
That was a different case.
It may have been the young man, the first young man he went to see, the young guy, and he started crying. He was like, if I get are you here to tell me that I got a date? And he was like, no. And he broke down crying because he said, well, good, I can tell my wife and kids.
However long he was
a year.
He had been there a year and wouldn't let them see him because he thought he was getting a date any day.
Exactly.
Probably because he was already on death row.
Right.
Which was crazy. Oh my gosh. Look, I'm getting mad all over again.
I swear.
I'm getting mad all over again. That movie was just, it was
But
amazing.
I think I think they tried to touch upon the many cases when they showed like each person saying, yeah, and they told me this, yeah, and they told me that. But I just feel like, I don't know, maybe another 10 to 15 minutes by just grabbing a couple more stories to talk about, because some of them were just, you needed to hear them.
Well, I feel like when they did that, it was showing the lack of information exchange between the judicial system and then like the inmates.
Right.
So, but it wasn't the ones that Bryan Stevenson like touched. Mm-hmm. So I wanted them to show like both.
Right.
The fact that there was no communication, inmates had no idea what was going on in their own lives and or soon to be deaths, and the ones that Bryan Stevenson was helping with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I watched a documentary also on Bryan Stevenson, just a small, short little documentary, and they touched on some of the cases that were in the book, and it's tough. Like, I don't think that we can handle that. I'm saying that I wish we would have saw more of it and had more backstory, but in the big scheme of things, I just don't know that I could handle that in a 2-hour movie setting. Like, I already left out of the movie theater, man.
Right. It was a couple of touching moments for me that I had to catch myself from breaking down, which was the guy Herbert who was in the electric chair. They was about to electrocute him, and then everybody was doing. He just felt so alone in that moment, and it was so strongly portrayed on how alone he felt. And then all the inmates was making noise, and he could finally hear it. And I was like, oh my God.
Especially when, like, they were sitting together, Bryan Stevenson and Herbert, they were talking, and he said, you know, I don't have anybody else. Can I send my flag to you from, like, the military?
That was beautiful.
And to show how alone he was, and that one person was reaching out, and he felt that.
Right.
He still felt alone, but, like, he felt a little bit of
like
hope.
a friend.
But then right after, when they started making that noise, it was like a complete 180 from I have one friend to I'm loved. And that's what I got from that scene.
And he showed that on his face.
Oh, yeah.
He was amazing.
He was.
You want to talk about nominations? Like, he needs to get something because you really felt everything. Not the expressions on his face, the way he carried himself. I mean, even him trying to do the breathing techniques.
Even when he walked in, it was like, how do I look? Do I look funny? It was just, really... It showed a lot, It was
a lot.
I had like a knot in my stomach that whole scene. Yeah, I was like trying to breathe and make sure that I continued to breathe as I was watching the whole thing.
Oh yeah, no, that's where I lost it. That's where I was like, that's when I was tearing. That one just I couldn't.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, I'm having.
I couldn't watch it.
I think I had an anxiety attack in the movie theater.
You definitely said you did.
Yeah, you
well,
did.
After
Just a fan.
you're like, my heart rate is going. You started like taking off your jacket because you were
I was
sweating.
having an anxiety attack. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having an anxiety attack. It was just too much.
That caused me to just, I was uncontrollably crying.
That scene, I was like, do I want to see? Because I mean, I love like the goriness of everything possible. But then that part, I was like, I'm so glad they didn't show like the details of it. Because I would have absolutely lost my SHIT.
The way they described it in the book, but then they had to do it again. And it didn't work. There's no way.
If they would have done it just from the book, I would have lost my mind.
I wish they would have done it from the book without taking it to the end of, actually showing what happened. Yeah. But I wish they would have shown the impact of somebody when you start it and then it didn't work and then you got to do it again. Like people who think so highly of the death penalty should see stuff like that.
1000%.
Because not everything works perfectly.
Exactly. And like they debate of how, we can't have cruel and unusual punishment. That literally is what that is.
Yeah.
It's not a guaranteed, end of life. It's torture. Literally, it's torture.
The electric chair.
Like you said, you shouldn't be punished. We understand you did something wrong. You murdered someone, but you don't take a life for a life. It's what
you're a legit human.
Yeah.
But that's
a whole nother topic.
So I guess moving towards the end of the book, the end of the movie when they were showing the credits. Not the credits, but sort of what happened to each character, which we didn't necessarily know from reading the book. And they were showing.
Oh, that was a great addition.
That was a great addition to the movie. I love that piece of it. But when I read the write-up on that sheriff...
That's
Sheriff Tate.
Freaking re-elected him how many times?
Six times for 32 years consecutively, and he retired in 2019.
Because of this movie.
That was 2 weeks ago.
It's because the movie...
2019 was 2 weeks ago.
The way when this movie...
I don't think he would have lost his job. I just think that... Because who's he going to lose it to? He was re-elected all these times. Who's he going to lose his job to? I just think the pressure... on him, probably, and his family. He's an older man now. He has branched out children. I'm sure one down the line to marry somebody black. And, it's going to cause some problems. So he just rolled out because this movie was outstanding.
He wanted to retire with a good career before it was tarnished by this movie.
Oh, no, it's tarnished now.
Well, now it is.
But like he can, I guess by paper it says that he's a great sheriff.
Yeah. When I read that, I just could not wrap my head around how somebody could re-elect this person so many times. But you know what? They don't know the story. A lot of times we're reading this story, we're reading the book, but the people that were re-electing him, I guarantee you they don't know all the details of the story. The fact that he lied and did all of this stuff. They know what the media or whoever in that neighborhood or in that area.
Because a lot of times the news is in their general area is not the same as the rest of ours.
Exactly. Which is why the whole town believed that Walter McMillan was guilty. They hated the family, the friends of his wife.
Even after he was released, they were just like, he's going to be guilty no matter what. It was just crazy to me.
It was.
So they didn't know the story, which is probably why. This guy was probably a great man. He kept the place safe and he put the criminals away.
I also think that in the end, they gave a nice, sweet ending to how Walter finally passed. Because in the book, it wasn't that nice.
Yeah, I think they definitely. I mean, I kind of see it as being sugarcoated.
Yeah.
Because the book was definitely showing that he struggled
a lot.
Yes. And then in the movie, it was like he was with his family. He did have a hard time dealing with his death row time. And I'm like, no, he literally fought and struggled his whole rest of his life.
Dementia stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, all that. Yeah.
But he had a lot of problems before that set in, and I just it's just unfair. How about the young lady that played Eva, the one that played what was her
Brie
name?
Larson?
Yes.
They played Ava Ensley?
Yes. Yeah. I thought she was so good.
I love
She
her.
really was.
I remember when we were reading the book, it was like, I know she can ready pack up and roll out.
Right.
Like, I'm done with these people. Because you know that, and then in the movie they portrayed it so well. She was like, whatever.
That she was like, I am 1,000% behind this.
Right.
Yes.
And I'm not gonna let my son see his mama give up because of this, that, and the other. Yeah, she did a really good job.
Well, and you know, I think it kind of took until I saw the movie for me to really understand, you know, the success was just not his. The success was also hers, because he was great, but without her, it would have been a lot. It was a lot more.
It was a
difficult.
partnership.
Yeah,
And between
she
the
was
two of
great.
them. Exactly. And you're right. I did not see that until the movie.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, she was his assistant. Like, in the book, it's kind of how I got it. But now I realize, like, if he didn't have her as, like, her right-hand person, or whatever, they would have not been as successful as they are continuously.
And honestly, he also needed like that white face, honestly,
Yeah.
to get into some doors.
Oh, a lot of
And,
those stories, yes.
That
I
much
think it was
change.
So I got that out of the book because they were saying how she was fighting the fight before he even arrived. She was fighting the fight for people.
No, I did get that,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It clicked to me
Watching
that
the
it's
movie.
not just, you know, it's his story, but it's both of their stories.
Yeah. But he's amazing. I mean, this Harvard graduate who could have took that Harvard law degree
Like his mama said,
anywhere.
exactly.
why you going south?
Right.
And he was like, I ain't making no money, but I'm going to do what I need to do. And that's just so admirable. I mean,
It really is.
It just warmed my heart because he didn't have to be there.
And one of the things that really stuck with me was that you really saw how these inmates weren't just clients. They were family, and they were like people that were involved in his life. And in the movie, they really definitely said that they maintained, Bryan and Walter maintained a friendship even past the time that he was free. So that right there really resonated with me, that he cares, not cared, past tense, he cares about every single one he helps. So that right there stuck with me a lot.
Right. I'm telling you, if Jamie Foxx does not win some type of award, just based on after that judge said that he was free, that emotion, I was just like,
I was
just like stunned. I mean, it seems so true. You know what I'm saying? He related that.
What that mean?
Right?
How can nobody?
And I think that he portrayed that he understood what was said, but he didn't think it was real.
Right.
He thought he was hearing things.
You could see it all.
That it
in
wasn't.
his
It was
face.
like some kind of alternate reality.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I got from his portrayal of that like reaction.
So this young boy that got me out.
But everybody in the movie did such a good job.
They did.
I mean,
Yeah,
when I
they
think
did.
about when Michael B. Jordan got pulled over, and he was like, hold up. And his eyes were watering, and he's furious. And when he had to take off his clothes for the strip search when he went to go visit his client.
Yeah.
Like
And they asked him like to bend over and cough.
Right.
And he was like,
But you know what I got from that? His facial expressions is like, I'm here to help. He had to focus on like these
Why
people
he was
are worse,
not there for
in
you.
worse conditions than he is right now. So that's what I kind of got from his whole facial expression. He had to clear it up like, okay, whatever.
But the fact that he could convey that,
Right,
just his facial
exactly.
expressions,
It's
like I
amazing.
just feel like him, and then I'm sorry, but Herbert was my favorite. Like he
definitely.
Herbert was the MVP of this movie.
Yeah.
Like seriously,
Exactly.
He took you there so clearly.
He
I mean, I do think Jamie Foxx did a good job too, but I honestly think Herbert did better than everyone. I mean, it was.
He did.
one of the people that I really liked was Minnie, his wife. Seeing her character, they downplayed a little bit of her reactions to, for one, seeing her husband again, and then also how the police used like dogs and those intimidation tactics to scare the family away and friends away. So I wish they would have added that in a little bit more to show that even though she was afraid well, for her life, but also afraid in general, that she still had to overcome her own fears to be there for her husband, even after all that they went through with him cheating and whatnot. And I wish they would have portrayed that, but I do think that Karen Kendrick did an amazing job at playing Minnie. That was what I saw in my head.
I'm glad they kept out the part where
I was hoping they had the older lady in the courtroom.
Yeah.
I wanted them to show
The old mama that gave the hugs and...
Yep.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
You know, like the elder of the neighborhood who couldn't get in that first time, and then the second time she was like, no, like all this he's been through, I'm gonna have to overcome this to get through this door,
Right, the
and
door.
be here for him.
Yeah. I'm glad they didn't, because in the book, Minnie was telling Bryan, like, listen, he can't come back here if he was to get out. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are not together. You know, I'm going to be here for him, but we can't live together. I guess because she was still hurt from everything that's happened, or she's moved on, or whatever the case was. So I'm glad they did not put that in there. It made it seem more like she was by his side in the movie.
Well, even though in the movie she said, you know, he is my husband, I'm going to support him. We got a lot of things to work out. So they touched on it versus how it was a complete separation in the book.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes. So I know we've kind of talked about casting pretty much through.
The good thing about casting, though, is when I like it when they show the actual people at the end. And how good of a job they picked these people, because
Walter McMillan?
Herbert?
Yes, they all look just
like Herbert.
Yeah.
I'm like, is that him?
Is that him or is that the real person? Right, yeah.
Because I hadn't looked at...
That dude?
Yeah,
Oh my God.
Ralph Myers.
Ralph Myers. Perfect.
He played that role so well.
Oh my God, he was amazing.
Yes, and he was thin
away.
too.
Who played Ralph Myers in the movie?
Tim Blake Nelson.
Tim was awesome.
He was.
Tim Blake Nelson was really good.
He was really good too.
Yeah.
That must have been hard for him also to like play that role, because in past movies where it comes to a little bit of like racism and that injustice, I know I've read articles about how a lot of white actors have a hard time playing that role because it's so against their human nature. Even though it's a character, they are playing a character because they're actors, but they have a hard time being disrespectful to someone they have so much respect for. So I have admiration for Tim Blake Nelson, because that has to be hard. It's to show hate towards somebody and actually not be that as a genuine person.
But Tim didn't show a lot of hate,
though. Not in the movie, anyway.
The sheriff did.
I'm sorry. That's what I meant. My bad.
Yeah,
Tim didn't. I mean, I felt like he struggled even in the book with just the decision he made.
Yes.
Oh yeah, the book showed even more of portrayed even more of a struggle than the movie let out. But
I don't even see it as a decision he made, and I feel like it was a decision made for him. When you torture someone, you're really making the decision for them.
That's
and
true.
to have him sit through that knowing that he burned as a child, and then you're gonna make him sit on death row when he didn't do anything that was even worth being on death row, and then smell the burning of another man. You tortured him.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
It was a powerful statement for Bryan in the movie to step in front of the gaze from the sheriff to
make sure that
because he was like ready to turn back and be like, I don't know, I don't remember, I don't know. But as soon as he stepped in front of him, he kind of you could still kind of relax.
Lawyer move.
Yeah,
that's a lawyer move.
He needed that. Yeah, he kind of needed that though, because that gaze, he was just staring at him, but he would not. I'm like, oh my God, if looks could kill.
Right.
Jeez.
So this movie motivated me to go on to Bryan's website and join the resistance.
Yeah, I want to meet him just to give him a hug.
Right. So I joined it. So I get their newsletters now to see what's going on.
He is an amazing person. I mean, it takes a lot to go through that and do what he did, or do what he's doing.
So y'all ready to rate this one?
Yes.
That was an exhale that we needed.
Listen, I'm just saying, full glass.
Yes.
Full glass from Lynn.
Full glass from champagne.
Full glass from Raya.
And that's our bottle.
That
What
is
we
a
drinking
bottle.
Did we not even describe what we're drinking? We got to talk about it. What are we drinking today, Lynn?
All right, so today we are drinking Duckhorn Napa Valley Cabernet. It's a 2016 wine. It is bold and has flavors of blackberry, huckleberry, which I don't even know what huckleberry is.
Huckleberry Finn?
But it tastes good to me.
Yum. Okay, so we are getting a full glass of Duckhorn.
Wait a minute, a full bottle.
Oh, I'm sorry, a full bottle.
Get that
You're getting a full glass.
about this movie,
Read the book. Read the book. Read the book, and then you will thoroughly understand the movie. You will thoroughly get through, get the points of how much this really took a toll on our wonderful lawyer, and really get a better appreciation for the movie.
Yes.
Yes, great movie. All right, well, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Check us out on Instagram.
Subscribe.
Also, check out our YouTube channel. We've got some videos up there.
And there are more coming.
More coming. We'll be out tonight once we finish this up because we're here in the NYC. And we'll be out on the town. We're about to